I just left my wife, and I feel great about it. 10 years ago, I thought I had the perfect life. I had a high-paying job, a beautiful wife, a clean house, 2 new cars, and a child on the way. My job made me happy, and I was good at it. The stability was great, and my wife loved me for me. She ignored my flaws as I tried to perfect them. In return, I adored her, and we seemed to be the perfect couple. People would always compliment us and talk about how envious they were of our relationship and everything. It kept getting better, I kept getting promotions, and we eventually moved from an ordinary house into an incredibly nice one. My wife was doing very well in her career as an optometrist, and we took fun vacations every year. Again, I thought I had it made. However, I don't know how this would have prompted it, but in early 2015, I bought her a Tesla for her birthday. She hadn't gotten a new car since 2008, and I kept getting new cars. Therefore, I surprised her, and she loved it, loved me, and I remember spending that entire day just taking rides in it and figuring out how all the gadgets and icons worked. Unfortunately, it was all downhill from there. In the months following, she became increasingly distant from not only me but our children. My oldest child, a 10-year-old girl in particular, felt hurt by this and would often try to engage her mother in conversation to get her talking. Some days this would work, and she would be pleasant, but on others, it would have the opposite effect. The first time I suspected that I was no longer her man of choice was in July 2016 when I noticed she was no longer going to yoga classes but telling me she was. We were on the same phone plan, and part of that plan was that we could see our phone locations. I was routinely browsing the app one day and noticed she appeared to be at someone's house. Since she had been irrationally angry the day prior to leaving, I didn't question her about it when she got home from yoga. Instead, I chose to closely observe when she went. During her yoga times, it would always seem to end up at the same house in a well-off neighborhood, probably a step above ours a little north of town. I was getting ready to confront her when I noticed that she had been returning to yoga again. During this period, she became incredibly distant and hormonal. My entire family had noticed this behavior going on for over a year now, but I had had enough. I sat her down and asked her what was going on. She gave me the cold shoulder, and when I questioned her about the yoga locations, she accused me of stalking, invading privacy, and being a great ad. That's when I asked her, "Are you cheating on me?" Of course, the answer was no. What followed in the weeks to come was distrust, hatred, and plain anger towards me. It was clear she knew I had caught on and was now trying to play that "I can't believe you think this" victim card. I saw through it all, and when she finally admitted she had seen and slept with another man, I decided to leave her. That's when I made my mistake. I forgave her. She told me she loved me, she loved our family, and in that moment, I believed her. I thought she could change. I was wrong. We tried marriage therapy, we tried taking adult days, and it seemed to work. We were happy, and she was genuinely having fun. It seemed like I had the old her back. I was relieved. This allowed me to pour more time into my kids and my work and have less stress overall. Then, one day, a business trip of mine to San Diego, I live in the East Coast in the USA, was cut short when my colleague fell ill, and our clients insisted that we reschedule. It was a hassle, but we caught the next flight out and returned home. I'm not sure why I didn't tell her I was coming home, but I just didn't. Maybe I wanted it to be a surprise. The only surprise I received when I pulled into the driveway was seeing a Ford SUV in my garage and finding not one but 2 men in my bed with my wife. This all happened yesterday, and I'm finally putting it into words. My wife started babbling when it happened, desperately trying to explain. I heard none of it. I walked out of my room, went to the basement, and poured myself a drink. I could hear the man upstairs leaving, and when I returned upstairs, it was my wife sitting there, clothed, with a sad smile on her face. She started talking, but I wouldn't have it. I told her to get out. I told her to get out of my house. I informed her that I'd get her stuff to her by the end of the week. She tried to pull the "what about the kids" BS, but I was just done. I'm sad, not for her. I'm sad for my kids, and I'm sad for whatever poor soul she meets next. I will fight hard for my kids, but my biggest fear is losing them. I know the court will rule incredibly in favor of mothers. I hope they realize that I've spent the last 3 years doing my best to mend a broken marriage for my family, and nothing has worked. I told my kids this morning. They asked why Mom didn't spend the night last night. I didn't make them go to school today. They're all upstairs together. This whole situation is terrible for everyone involved, and it could have been completely preventable. I don't pity my wife. I hope that she has one label for the rest of her life: cheater. I wanted to follow her. I want people to know she is a prominent optometrist in our area. This could very well hurt her business if word spreads, which it very well may. Thank you for listening. And this is what I mean. This woman had it all. She had a great career, a great husband, a family, a house, cars. She had it all. What was she unhappy with? Why did she have the need to sleep around with not just one guy, but 2 at the same time? What was going on? Was she losing air that she needed those holes covered or something? I think what angers me the most about this floozy is that she had the audacity to actually say, "What about the kids?" Isn't that something she should have asked herself before jumping into bed with a tag team? My apologies if my rant has offended any of you. Hey everyone, greetings again. Not sure if you remember me, but I posted here around 2 months ago with the story of how I caught my wife cheating and what it did to our family. I was incredibly distraught, but as of July 13, 2018, our civil court case has officially concluded. It was a quick and easy process, and I was victorious in everything. 2 months ago, I came home from a business trip to find my wife in bed with 2 men. This was after multiple years of her deliberately deceiving our family, and I was foolish enough to take her back after I already caught her cheating with someone much older and much richer than me. After telling her to get out, she became hostile and threatened to take my kids away from me. I was beyond concerned at this point. I've heard horror stories in the courtroom about mothers getting their way no matter what, so I had no idea what to expect. I had to take time off from work this summer because I was consistently feeling sick and couldn't deal with the thought of my ex-wife watching over our children if they grow up anything like her. I'll consider myself a parental failure. I put in my plea for full custody and officially filed for divorce on May 21, 2018. I hired a lawyer from my best friend at work who initially tried to do it for free after he heard what happened, but I simply wouldn't feel right, and he hopped on the case. Together, we went through my phone records, her phone location records, and gathered everything we possibly could to build our case. Court proceedings began on July 12th, the week after my kids and I returned from our vacation. I did not take them out of state per my lawyer's advice, but it was a good little distraction. My 10-year-old daughter, the oldest, seemed to be emotionally stable enough to answer some questions by both lawyers, even after I requested her not to have to deal with this whole thing. She stated how my ex-wife had been difficult and paranoid for the last year, but she had learned to live with it, which is something no child should have to experience. However, the thing that tipped the ceremony was her announcement of moving to Southern California, which would mean the kids would have to move. All 3 of them picked me. Her lawyer tried to argue that I was sabotaging them, influencing the kids to pick me over her, but the answer was clear: they wanted to stay in the same house with the same friends in the same school. The court ruled in favor of them living full-time with me. They were permitted to visit their mother whenever they please as long as it does not extend 14 days without me. In addition, she is no longer allowed on my property, and that includes our South Carolina residence, my plot of land in Boulder, and any one of the office buildings that my company operates out of. My parents and immediate relatives have also put in requests so that she does not enter any of their homes as well. Ultimately, I'm completely relieved that it's the least stressed I've been in the past 3 years. It's a little sad knowing my marriage failed, but I realized I'm not responsible for that, and I'm going to take these next couple of years to myself and devote my time to my children. Thank you, everyone, on this site for their continuous support. It's been a blessing reading all of your PMs and comments. Please take care, every single one of you. P.S. Not sure you all remember, but I gave her that Tesla back in 2015. Took it right back from her, sold it to a lovely young man in Charleston, and turned the cash into American Cancer Society donations. Well, Opie, I'm happy the court ruled in your favor and that you get to keep your kids. Of course, I'm sad your marriage failed because that's always sad news, but it's a good thing that you're at least okay, your kids are okay, and your ex-wife, whatever. Let's hope she enjoys Southern California, and I guess there really isn't much more to say about this whole thing, right? So, on this note, let's move on to the next story. I know that usually, before every story, I give you a tiny summary about what's to come, but for this one, I'm gonna let the title do all the talking. This one is from user Withered Poet. My entitled sister wants to steal our deceased grandma's apartment out from under me so the guy she's cheating on her husband with can move in instead, and she can see him easier. Just needed a place to complain because I'm upset, so it's cool if nobody sees this or replies. Sorry if you do read this and things make no sense. No promises to be coherent anyways. Hold on to your hats and get ready for a train wreck, fellas. My sister is probably the worst case of entitled I've ever seen. She's always the victim, can do no wrong, and the world owes her for her imaginary suffering. This time, however, she's reached a new effing level. She's recently confessed to our mom and me that she started dating someone behind her husband's back, and to be honest, her husband is also a ginormous dirtbag. But just leave the guy, okay? I don't think anyone deserves to be cheated on, and even though he totally effing sucks, an affair doesn't constitute as some kind of just punishment. It's messy, gross, and not worth it. Save everyone the extra heartache. Now, our grandma passed away at the end of August. It hasn't even been a month since she passed, and since she was terminally ill, we did have time to discuss some things and make arrangements for others. She lived in an apartment that's attached to our mom's house, and we had talked about me moving into it after grandma passed, and everyone thought it was a good idea because my grandma had things like no-slip railings, kitchen tools, and gadgets for arthritic hands, etc. And I am also disabled and could benefit from the same equipment. Come to find out that my dipthird sister thinks it'd be a cool idea to have her marital affair move into our mom's property instead so she can use our mom as some kind of cover for her affair, and I'm absolutely repulsed and livid. We were all just starting to let my sister come around again because after grandma passed she seemed like it had really affected her and she was really turning over a new leaf, but it's all because she wants her boyfriend to move in. I don't think anyone is going to fly with the idea. I just can't believe that she even thought it would be a viable option and something that she could even suggest to us. Why does she just assume that we'll help her cheat on her husband? I want no part of it. I will not be an accomplice. Also, her justification for suggesting he move in is because OP doesn't seem to be in much of a rush to get up there. Like, yeah, I found our grandma deceased less than a month ago. Sorry, I haven't been in a hurry to erase grandma from her home. Sorry, I haven't been sorting through all of her belongings and getting them ready to be rehomed or donated. I wish I could keep every trace of her, and the fact that I have to get rid of anything at all hurts. And I'm sorry, I haven't done it yet, but maybe try having a little effing empathy. I decided that I'm kicking my sister out of my life. Again, each time I think she's capable of changing, she shows that she's still the same horrible selfish person, and I'm done falling for the charade. Have fun with the inevitable divorce proceedings. Good luck explaining all this BS to your kids too. Thanks for reading, if you read. Still can't believe my sister is not only a real human being who exists, but we share the same gene pool. Also, I'm 24 years old, so I've had a long time to come to terms with that fact. Still can't wow. OP, your sister is a piece of work. But like honestly, she broke the mold for idiots. Let's start with the fact that she's cheating on her crappy husband. Fine, she sucks, but then she admits it to your mom and you and expects you guys to help her cheat? What the hell? Also, the fact that you're disabled seems to have no effect at all in her wanting to move in her affair partner into that apartment. To be honest, at this point, I don't think your sister is entitled. I think your sister's delusional and a huge idiot. And I do have to say, I'm a little bit intrigued into knowing what kind of world she lives in. I mean, what would it be like to be inside her head? It must be like going into Willy Wonka's chocolate factory or something. But anyways, that's just my opinion. So now, let's move on with the update to see how this story ends. I wanted to first start off by saying thank you to everyone who took the time to reach out with their advice and personal stories. You've all been so kind to me. I didn't expect so many people to comment and message with their guidance and words of encouragement. Thank you so much. I appreciate all of you. Secondly, I want to apologize for being missing in action these past couple of days, but it's only because there have been some good developments. There were so many good points made in my last thread that my mom and I hadn't really thought of, such as my sister potentially getting kicked out and needing somewhere to stay, waiting until after I'd moved to tell her husband about the affair, ways to tell him, etc. And all of these things have been taken into consideration moving forward. My family and I have begun going through Grandma's belongings, and it's definitely been bittersweet because it hurts to see her things go and her existence dissipate even more. But we have also found so many family photos and keepsakes and overall good memories. I even found a box that belonged to my great-grandpa, and it had his pocket watch and a photo of my great-grandma in it. My sister did manage to bully her way into the apartment for a few hours so she could pick out what keepsake she wanted, but joke's on her because I hid all the things Grandma wouldn't have wanted her to take. She walked away with not much more than a decorative bowl. She is starting to drop the narrative that her boyfriend can move into the apartment now that she sees that we are serious about me being the new tenant, but she did make some little comments that let me know that it's not forgotten. She can plot all she wants though because we're installing a security system and changing locks, so if she thinks she can sneak in or try to get her hands on anything else, she is sadly mistaken. My mom and I have decided that after I'm all moved into the apartment, we are going to tell her husband the truth about the affair and offer our support to him and the kids and do whatever we can to help, whether it's emotional support, babysitting, whatever we can to make things easier when my sister's infidelity is brought to light. My sister might hate us for it, but at the end of the day, she is the victim of her own actions, and I am tired of sparing her feelings so she can continue to treat everyone around her like absolute trash. And my mom agrees that enough is enough, and if we never hold her accountable for what she does, she'll continue to push the limits of what she can get away with. Some people suggested going the anonymous route with tipping her husband off, and while I thought that might have been a possibility, ultimately, I feel like that could cause some inner turmoil for him later. If he didn't know his wife was cheating, then who did? And just how many other people knew? Was it something she kept out in the open when he wasn't around, and nobody respected him enough to tell him personally? I don't want him to end up potentially torturing himself through speculation. Anyway, I think that's all there is to tell you guys for now. I just wanted to let you all know where some things have ended up, where they're headed, and thank you for the outpouring of support. It was much needed and very appreciated. I am glad that I won't have to hold on to such a horrible, ugly secret for much longer and her husband can know the truth. We will do what we can to help the healing process.